Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Untapped Healing, where we help you tap into your healing potential. In this channel, we dive deep on the concept, ideas, personalities that really help you unlock your greatest version. And if you're interested in becoming your greatest version, feel free to subscribe below. In today's episode, we're going to be diving deep on Dr. Neal Barnard's perspective on cheese, what cheese does to your mind, and how you could lose the addiction for cheese for good. But I mean, sometimes we need some motivators, and Dr. Neal Barnard is definitely that. Let's listen in.
But anyway, this was a vegan group. They weren't vegans coming in, but we asked them to follow a vegan diet, and they did great. I have to tell you, they did wonderfully. After 14 weeks, we compared both groups. The vegans lost substantially more weight. Their waistlines trimmed down. Their cholesterols went down. We had a few people who were diabetic at the start. None of them were diabetic by any standard diagnostic test at 14 weeks. But I asked them, what do you miss now? And I thought they would say, I miss chocolate ice cream, or a cold glass of milk with some cookies, or a burger. And they didn't say any of that. Can you guess what they missed? They wanted cheese. They were waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning dreaming of cheese pizza with those strings of melty cheese coming down. And I thought, and other people report that too. They miss cheese more than other foods. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I started thinking, why is it? I mean, let's be honest. Cheese does smell a little bit like old socks. Why is it that people want this stuff? Well, I started looking into this, and this is actually what propelled me on this quest to figure out about the opiate effects of foods that led to this new book called Breaking the Food Seduction. I found a paper in 1981 written by a researcher at Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. And he had found a substance in dairy products that looks very much like morphine. And he did a variety of biochemical studies and published in Science, the journal Science, in 1981, his conclusion that it is morphine. You know poppy plants, opium poppies, they have the enzymes for producing narcotics, opium. And a cow's liver, by a fluke of nature, has similar enzymes that make morphine and codeine. There's not a lot of it. There's just tiny traces, especially in the spring, less in the fall. But the amounts are so small, I don't think that's why some people get hooked on dairy. What seems to be more important is something called casomorphins. Have you heard of these? Hey, you've heard of casein, C-A-S-E-I-N, the dairy protein? All proteins are strings of beads. Each bead is an amino acid. Those are the building blocks of protein. In your digestive tract, that protein breaks apart and the individual beads get into your bloodstream, and your body can turn them into muscles or skin or internal organs or whatever. But casein does not behave that way. Casein is a long string of amino acids like other proteins, but in the calf's digestive tract, it's broken into not individual amino acids, but strings of 4 or 5 or 7. And they're biologically active. They have opiate activity. By that I mean they act like mild narcotic drugs. They're not that strong. The strongest is about 1/10 the power of pure morphine. But if any of you were ever in the hospital and you got a pain-killing drug that was in the narcotic class, like morphine or Demerol, the biggest side effect is that you get constipated fairly quickly. Well, if any of you ever did a big cheese overdose, that breaks apart into these narcotics, and one of the principal side effects is exactly the same. It's a narcotic-like effect. Now, for chemists in the audience, this is what the casomorphins look like, and it raises the question, what the heck are they doing there? Why would we have opiate compounds in milk? And I want to offer you my theory. My theory is that nature doesn't like leaving anything to chance. If the baby calf did not like nursing and turned away and said, Mom, I'm just going to go wander in the woods today, or if a breastfeeding baby turned away from the breast, they wouldn't do well. They wouldn't thrive. So nature builds milk with protein and fat and sugar and hormones and growth factors of various kinds and a nice little narcotic effect so that the casomorphins go to the baby's brain and cause a little bit of sedation. And for any of you who have ever looked at a baby as he or she is nursing, they get this funny look on their face. And then they doze off to sleep, and we think, my lullabies were so compelling. I hate to break it to you, you just drugged the kid. And now nature never figured that we would continue consuming milk, but what I'm suggesting is that the mother-infant bond has a biological basis in drug-like compounds, and that the human refrigerator bond kind of works the same way. Now, is it a good idea to break away from cheese? Well, here are the figures. The calorie content of cheese is huge. It's probably the most fattening food that people include in their diets. 2 ounces of cheese, which is about as much as you top a sandwich with, has close to 200 calories and lots and lots and lots of fat, mostly the bad fat, the saturated fat. That's the kind that makes your cardiologist get kind of woozy. The cholesterol content is high, too. If you compare it to sirloin steak, ounce per ounce, it's as bad or worse. Okay, did any of you have arthritis or migraines or digestive problems that got better when you got away from dairy products? Anybody experience that? It's the most amazing thing, isn't it? Where people who live for years with these conditions, the doctors do all kinds of expensive tests, and then one day somebody says, why don't you stop dairy products? And suddenly, your body gets back to the way nature wanted it to be. I think this is most important, perhaps not even for adults, for kids. If any of you have known a kid who has migraine headaches, it's the most tragic thing, especially for a kid who gets them frequently. These kids, it's not a tension headache. It's not, I've kind of had a bad day. These kids have pounding pain, and it throbs all night long and into the next day. These kids don't play. They don't think, they don't read, they don't go to school, they don't do anything. What they do is they lie in the dark, trying to fall asleep. It's because they know that if they can just fall asleep, then they might wake up without the headache. And researchers have found that in about 80% of these kids, you can identify one or more diet triggers. When you take those out of their diet, they never have another headache, or very, very rarely. And the diet triggers for migraines are dairy products, chocolate, eggs, citrus fruits, meat, wheat, nuts, tomatoes, onions, corn, apples, and bananas. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a banana. But if you're allergic to strawberries and you get a rash, you can't have strawberries. If bananas trigger a migraine, that's a problem for you. Dairy is at the top of the list. And arthritis, same story. For many, many people, their joints are just grinding, and when they get away from dairy, they get better. Okay. Let me take a couple of minutes and talk about something that is really critical. Every cancer researcher in America knows this, and other people, it's not on our collective radar screen, and that's milk and prostate cancer. Have you heard about this? It started out as just an observation. If you compare countries that consume a lot of dairy products versus those that have dairy products very rarely, the Scandinavian countries have quite a lot of dairy. North America, same story. We have a lot of, I have no idea what's causing all of this. No, the doctor knows instantly this is alcoholism, and I'm not going to send you down to the liver specialist and the eye specialist and the dermatologist to look at your nose. What we are going to talk about is how to separate you from this condition that is, from this substance that is causing all of these medical conditions. Same doctor's office. A guy walks in. He's had a heart attack. His cholesterol is going up. He has a touch of diabetes. He has high blood pressure, and he's got gout. The doctor now will give him 5 diagnoses, send him to 5 specialists, write 5 different prescriptions, and nobody ever says, wait a minute. It might make sense to think of this as if you are hooked on a substance which is causing all of these to manifest, and when we break that food seduction, all of these things will improve or perhaps even go away. And what I'm suggesting is that is exactly the direction that doctors have to go into.
And now you guys understand what cheese does to you, and how, if you want to eradicate cheese from your life, how you can go about doing it. It's not, you don't do it in a day, you don't do anything in a day. You want to wean your way off of things and make sure that you are actually taking the steps towards your progression. Because the only way you get a reality where you have all of the benefits that you get from not consuming the dairy products is by actually eliminating it and like consciously doing it and making sure it's happening incrementally. Because there will be a time where you don't consume it, but if you don't believe it, you're not going to take the actions towards doing it. Take the actions today and see your life change forever. Absolutely love you guys for sticking around for this long, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Stay well.